Hey guys, OG Albani here, bringing you guys our summer seasonal Smogon draft tournament run. Now, this isn't any old plain simple draft league movie like we've uploaded in the past. No, this one has a little bit of a underlying theme to that, and I guess you guys probably saw in the title of the video. It's probably the most cursed or scuffed tournament run I have ever personally participated in. Now, that's not because I was knocked out in, X amount of games, like 3 games. I'm sure you guys are seeing. At least I think it's going to be long. The length of this video is pretty damn long. So we get pretty decently far and have a run, but the events that occur throughout this tournament, I felt like they would actually be really worth kind of going over where I went wrong, where I went right, and all the shenanigans that ensued. So if you guys are excited for another Draft League movie, be sure to drop a like in the video as well as subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 5,000 subs by the end of the year, and I would really appreciate it if you helped out a smaller creator like myself and reaching and moving towards that goal. With that being said, I do want to jump into our team really quick. I'm not going to do like a crazy in-depth team builder, but I actually really liked our team. I thought it was a lot of fun. And it's featuring some of my favorite Pokemon in Draft League. First up, starting off with Raging Bolt. This is going to be our Terra Captain, the way the Terra Captains work in, this tournament, Summer Seasonal, and really most showdown scenes in general, outside of, Wi-Fi leagues that you might be watching. As I know a lot of my viewer base comes from watching Wi-Fi leagues, is this Terra Captain can Terra into any typing. But we're playing in the Terra Preview format, so we will see those Terra typings at Team Preview for the Terra Captain, so we'll at least be able to know and play around them. I've personally found, and I think most people that have played it consistently enough, find that Terra Preview is probably the most consistently competitive way of approaching the terrestrialization mechanic. So if you haven't seen it and you haven't played it, be a little bit more open-minded to it. I think you'd be surprised at how much better it really does feel. The BBR Summer Scramble that we're doing soon too is also, Terra Preview, so that'll be fun. But yeah, with that being said, we drafted Raging Bolt. I mean, this Pokemon, stats-wise, incredibly bulky, incredibly strong, deceptively fast with base 75. It outspeeds everything fat. Doesn't outspeed, offense, but it has the bulk to take them on. Plus, obviously, big old Thunderclap, giving it an electric sucker punch from the special side, which is incredible, alongside Calm Mind, alongside, Draco Meteor, alongside Dragon Pulse, Thunderbolt, Discharge. I'm a big AV Raging Bolt guy. I'm a big Boots 4 attacks guy, and especially with Terra, being able to, Terra Blast and, get water coverage, being Terra Poison or Terra Steel, or these defensive typings that really kind of patch our weaknesses. I've seen Terra Flying put in work before, really versatile mon in that regards, and it's honestly a ton of fun to use and really easy to build around, to be completely honest. And round 2 came along and I saw another Pokemon that in my mind is debatably a round 1 pick in these Amon format, or at least in full leagues, maybe not in Amon formats, but I really love this Pokemon. I think it fits well, and it's going to be Greninja. Another endgame absolute demon with the addition of Battle Bond, or reworked Battle Bond this generation, giving it a special attack, speed, and attack boost once per battle when it picks a KO. So allowing it to basically get an offensive only Quiver Dance to really smoke through teams. But on top of that, having access to Protean and some of the best coverage in the game. I mean, we're not going to do the thing where we read off all of the, attacks in the team builder, but I'm sure you can see the crazy coverage this guy gets, whether it be for Protean sets to gain stab on the first move we click, or whether it be on Battle Bond sets, which is, to be honest, a majority of what we're going to be running here. It also has access to spikes, giving us a strong spiker. I don't like using Greninja as a spiker this generation as much because I really love Battle Bond winning, but it's a great spiker if we do need it to do so. Grabs great momentum, and it also gives us an elite speed tier, and I think that's really important in drafting in general. Securing that elite top-end speed tier is so nice. It makes the rest of the drafting process so much easier. Now, round 3, I end up grabbing Rillaboom. Pairs really well with Raging Bolt offensively, defensively. Same thing with Greninja. We have a pretty nasty momentum-based core here. Rillaboom sitting grassy terrain is also really nice for Raging Bolt, giving it passive recovery. Also weakening Earthquakes if we don't want to Terra, or for Terra Poison, Terra Steel, because those are pretty common typing. Even a random Terra Fire, right? So really nice, strong priority. Spams knockoff to get rid of boots and get rid of leftovers, get rid of helmets, get rid of AVs for the rest of our guys here, which is really nice. And yeah, it's just an overall really strong, solid support Pokemon. We also just pull up with Banded and kill something with Wood Hammer every time we get in on something slower. So resist don't switch into Rillaboom if rocks are up and we've knocked off their boots. So that's obviously nice. Speaking of rocks, and speaking of another partner with Heatran that fuck. With Rillaboom, you often see drafted is what I just spoiled in Heatran. Absolutely love Heatran. I am a Heatran stan through and through. No matter generation 6, 7, 8, 9, I will always spam draft big Heatran. If this guy isn't in Gen 10, maybe we don't play draft anymore. It is that much of a love for this guy. It gives us a fire immunity, which pairs well with Rillaboom, and also is nice considering that our water is going to be very offensive in Greninja. Having a fire immunity is really, really valuable. But we also have Flame Body to punish momentum-based offense, punish U-turns, even punish knockoffs. And even if we're sacking something off to a random close combat or something of the sorts, making contact, there's always that nice chance for a 30% burn, which is great. The main thing, though, that this offers is not only defensive synergy with guys like Rillaboom and getting grassy terrain with Heatran is obviously great. Rillaboom taking on all the waters it hates and all the grounds it hates. But it also gives us reliable Stealth Rock. We don't have rocks on our team up to this point. So securing a Pokemon that can pretty much always get them up every game is great. We did lose Eruption and Toxic in the generational shift from 8 to 9. Definitely sucks. However, it just means that Heatran kind of specs more defensively a lot of the time, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. And even just naturally, offensively, our coverage is always going to be potent with fire in either like Flamethrower, Lava Plume, Magma Storm, Earth Power, Flash Cannon, and even Power Gem, which I got this generation. It's typically going to be pretty darn strong offensively, even on defensive sets, which is obviously nice. There's always good old Stall Breaker to Heatran, you Magma Storm, Taunt, and Protect, and something's dead. So that's always really, really nice. And especially Protect plus Leftovers plus Terrain from Rillaboom, it's basically Recover, right? Now, I did want to get kind of a jack of all trades mons in Mew next. Mostly one, because I haven't tried it this gen, and it looks like a lot of fun. If I didn't have Terra Raging Bolt, I would have Terra this guy. I really want to try Terra Mew, actually. It looks like a lot of fun. But on this team, I see it being potentially like, you know, set up Win Con, Dragon Dance, Calm Mind, Nasty Plot, all that stuff that does this gen, but also as a secondary spiker. I mentioned before, I don't like running spikes on Greninja. So having Mew, who very viably can run the slot, or run the move in its, you know, 4 slot, and lead and get them up pretty consistently, is always going to be really nice. It also gives me a reliable fighting resist. I don't know if you saw my team, doesn't really take on offensive fightings right now, which I don't like a lot considering the top end of this metagame is very fighting heavy. So that's obviously really, really scary. It gives me a good defensive pivot and sponge into a lot, and helps me maintain initiative with U-turn and Volt Switch, depending on what we want to rock with, or even Flip Turn if we're feeling a little spicy. I'm pretty sure this guy was Flip Turn, right? Yeah, I was going to say it's a TM. But yeah, pretty cool guy, like Mew. Jack of all trades, it's not what it once was when it had recovery, but it's still pretty damn good. Next up, we got Mienshao. We mentioned that we were pretty fighting weak before. We were especially very dark weak prior to this. And I think dark spam and fighting spam are both really, really strong in this metagame. And fairy, which we have Heatran for, which that gave us a fairy resist, I forgot to mention. But Mienshao is going to pivot as or function as a nice dark resist. It also gives me a nice speed tier on 105. It gives me a good Scarfer too. Didn't really have a great choice scarf Pokemon. Mienshao is pretty good at that with Regenerator, U-turn knockoff, CC. Even Reckless High Jump Kicks might be doing some crazy damage if we get the right matchup and opportunity. You could do some cool stuff with like Swords Dance and things of the sort, but most of the time it's going to be Scarf or AV. It's going to pivot in with Regen, knock off some items, do some pretty annoying damage, and kind of maintain the initiative and momentum that our team kind of allows for. Now, with our last 2 picks, not that many points. I wanted to get a cool, I really wanted to roll compress, and there were a couple things I didn't have up to this point. One was going to be a ground, and again, I wanted a bit of a sturdier fighting check. Mew is great, and especially if this was an old gen, this would be plenty enough, but no Roost is a little bit tough, so I ended up grabbing Palossand. I think this Pokemon fits great, and it's actually one of my favorite lower tier Pokemon to draft right now. Crazy roll compression, right? It gives me a go, so spin block, which is awesome. Fighting check. It gives me a ground, obviously, stopping Volt Switch momentum. It gives me a rocker. And it's overall just a huge, huge nuisance of a Pokemon. Checks a lot of the top end fighting types that we would really struggle with otherwise, especially the ones that can kind of just click U-turn, which Mew doesn't appreciate, like say like a Sneasler, right? Sneasler comes in, U-turns, we're in a bad spot. So this helps out with that guy in particular, which is obviously really nice, and yeah, pretty cheap mon for what it does. I really love this thing and how bulky it is and how reliable it is at getting up rocks and just being a tool, right? And then lastly, I grabbed my second Terramon. You got like 2 Terramons. I think it was like a 25-point budget or something similar. I wanted to get a bulkier water, and I figured that this was probably the best bet in the points I had allowed left. It also gives me Sticky Webs and Araquanid. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm not big on Sticky Web, and I don't think Sticky Web really helped my team at all. But I think Araquanid fits to the point to where like it's not a downside to have webs, right? Probably won't be clicking them or running it very often, but still a pretty good bond. And again, in the event that I don't want to Terra my Bolt and I like my, initial typing, Terra Watering on this guy with a choice band, I mean, you're picking one, right? If I can't position myself correctly, and with the momentum that we have on this team and, support that we have in getting into Araquanid, pretty darn viable way of doing so. So really cool Pokemon. And again, defensive Terras are obviously a very viable option if we do have a matchup where like we need to get up webs or something of the sort. But yeah, that is going to be our team for this tournament. Pretty quick little team builder, or not team builder, draft analysis. But I think the team's a lot of fun. It obviously has some downsides, but I mean, it's a really fun squad. And with that being said, we're going to jump into the round 1 of our tournament. Alrighty guys, round number 1, we're against Ace 98121212. A lot of numbers right there. We see some pretty big demons on this team. We're fighting into a Terra Annihilate. I think it might have been Terra Cyclosar as well. I'm not 100% sure. Don't really remember. Fun fact, it's the Annihilate that tears this game. But you can see, pretty tough one. We have a pretty cool squad for this one, so I want to go over the team really quick. Not super in-depth team builders. But first up, we have a Terra Dragon Raging Bolt. You'll see very often I'll like running Terra Dragon on Bolt when I'm going for attacks, because a lot of teams don't have a switch into the combination of Electric plus Dragon, right? Fairies are a bit few and far in between, and honestly, a lot of the teams I was playing didn't have the greatest, fairy type, counterplay to Big Bolt, especially considering it was Terra. So very often, especially into this team, I believe their fairy was Azumarill, which didn't end up coming. So I felt pretty comfortable clicking Terra Dragon Draco and absolutely smoking through. You can see on the team that they ended up bringing, there is not a single Dragon Resist outside of the Terra Fairy Annihilate, which has Terra before that. So I really like Terra Dragon Draco, and it's actually going to be our lead in this game. We're going to Terra Dragon and hopefully do a ton of damage. Next up, we have Greninja here with the Mystic Water. We are Hydro Pump, Sludge Wave, Surf, and Ice Beam. Now, you'll see there is no Water Shuriken on the set. I really wanted to fit it for a very, very weakened Meowscarada or like a Scarf Landorus, a ton of different things, but in my mind, I figured I needed Sludge Wave in case the Azumarill came. I also needed Ice Beam to be able to hit Cyclozar, especially if it was an Assault Vest variant. So I felt a little bit pressed for my coverage. I could have definitely gone Hydro Pump and no Surf, or Surf and no Hydro Pump, but there were situations where I could comfortably click Mystic Water, Surf, and pick up a KO, and there were some instances where I needed that Hydro Pump damage, especially into guys like Annihilate. Like that raw damage from Mystic Water Hydro Pump at +1 is 100% the difference between me killing that thing or just picking me off with the Drain Punch. So it was just my strongest neutral attack into that guy, and I felt like it was needed. But yeah, that's at least my justification behind no Shuriken, and you'll see that ends up kind of coming into play in the game. And I have Heatran here. Rocky Helmet, we are Lava Plume, Power Gem, Earth Power, and Stealth Rock. We don't have good Meowscarada counterplay at all. Really, my best bet is switching in, making it take a bunch of chip. If it U-turns, heck yeah. It's also baiting Flame Bodies, right? If it's Protective Pads, we find out it's Protective Pads early. If not, Heatran really pressures in that regard. It also gets up rocks pretty freely on it and Rotom Heat, which is really nice. And it also punishes Cyclosar with it Rapid Spinning. We can throw off Lava Plumes, get burns between Burn, Helmet, Lava Plume. That guy's going to be chipped down. I'm just going to get my rocks again after. Power Gem gives me really good coverage into the Rotom in particular, because it's another Pokemon I don't like super appreciate. Then we have a pretty fun move set. We are Clear Amulet, Psychic Fangs, Close Combat, Dragon Hits, and Encore. Pretty offensive set. I thought about potentially going Triple Axle because it gives me an Oko on the Landorus, but I figured if I could chip down Landorus enough, or I can just put crazy damage on it with a Psychic Fangs, that's honestly good enough for me. And the reason we went Encore is twofold. It's for past Pokemon like Glamora, maybe trying to set up a hazard, where that's not a very likely scenario. We also could see it being from Meowscarada Sucker Punch. I can Encore it in, continue to DD, and put my opponent in a really tough position, but it's also mostly for Annihilate. Bulking up, taunting it, encoring, whatever it is when it comes in. If I ever come in hard on it bulking up aggressively, which I definitely can if I haven't given it any rage assist boost, I can encore it in and start setting up, or even throw off a strong close combat and an aggressive meow switch if I've already shown, what my set is, or Landorus is gone, or something of the sort. So I really like Mew here in that regard. I think the set's pretty fun. Definitely a cool one. AV Rillaboom, I'll be honest, I don't really remember what the AV's for. It's something on the bench. I know there's a Zoomer on the bench and one others. Not the greatest here, but it can naturally take, some hits decently well. And if we needed to, pivot in, take a hit from Glamora and Grassy Glide, because I don't have great Glamora switch-ins either, to be honest, or even take a hit from Rotom and knock it off, or just kind of use it as a pivot around kind of mon and U-turn around, have the Grassy Glide priority for weakened threats in the back. It's always going to be decently valuable. And then we have a fun one on the last slot. It's going to be Choice Specs Araquanid. Hydro Pump, Surf, Bug Buzz, Ice Beam. We are Terra Water in this game, so double stab typings on our Terra. Look at that Specs Hydro Pump into this team. Again, it goes absolutely crazy, especially if we could have used this to, force in the Azumarill, or even force in like an AV Cyclizar to come and take a bunch of damage. That's obviously going to be pretty beneficial. And yeah, if we can position it in early and get some big damage off on something with it, it's going to really open up the rest of our offense later. That being said, we do want to jump into this guy right here. So, gonna go ahead and press play. In this game, we see that he is indeed going to be Terra Fairy on his Annihilate, like I mentioned before. So, just things to keep in mind, obviously, going throughout. And yeah, let's jump in. Oh, he was also Terra Meow. No, he wasn't Terra Mascara. That was another game, I think. Immediately, we are going to lead our Bolt. I am going to Terra Dragon because I don't want to be weak to Earth Power. And I don't really think I need to Terra Water my Araquanid in this game. I don't really want to waste some of that. I want to throw off a Discharge here. Reason being is Draco doesn't always kill, depending on his set, as well as the fact of, like, if it's Sash, I don't want to lower my special attack for no reason. I Discharge to bait a Para here, if at all possible, so that 2 hazards don't go up. We'll see that I'm actually going to throw off this Discharge as T-Spike go up. Part of the reason I led this Raging Bolt is because a Pokemon I knew could put crazy damage on Glamora, but it also wouldn't attack it physically and, put up T-Spikes. If you didn't notice, my team doesn't have a Grounded Poison. You'll see it's kind of a theme throughout that I play a lot of T-Spikes builds, because not only do I not have a Grounded Poison, something to keep in mind is, like, a lot of teams don't need one, but my team is very weak to T-Spike, incredibly weak, and it kind of ends up really affecting a lot of our games in either our item slot, being boots, or our gameplay and being poisoned a lot of times. So good bring by my opponent, honestly. Getting up the T-Spikes guaranteed was very, very smart by them, to be honest. Next turn, they're going to get up their Stealth Rock as I do Draco Meteor. I don't want the speed to roll. I don't want a bunch of hazards to go up. I don't want to take damage for no reason. So we get a bunch of damage off here as Annihilate is going to pivot out here. My play, in my mind, was going into Araquanid. If this thing wanted to use this as an opportunity to bulk up, I don't boost its Rage Fist. I get into Araquanid. T-Spike and Rocks are up, so it's very kind of useless, especially because it's slower than everything on this team that they brought. So I want to get in, click Hydro Pump, do as much damage as possible, and get into something that can offensively pressure this Annihilate afterwards. But you're going to see that they're actually not going to be a bulk up variant, at least initially, and they're going to click Terra Blast, doing 49%, which is crazy damage, and then U-Turn is going to pick me off. Now, at least this does tell me that this isn't Scarf. That's valuable. But it not being bulk up means I get nothing out of my Araquanid and nothing cool happened for my cool Choice Spec set. So, unfortunate, but that's life. We're going to get into our Heat Training here as Meowscarada comes out. We do live a low kick from here, and I'm going to use it as an opportunity to get at my rocks. We're going to need to chip down this team, put them in range of guys like Bolt coming in and picking KOs. I need to pick KOs fast and set up a, Greninja endgame is kind of my goal right now. We do see a U-turn, which was a really, really aggressive play. I feel like risking a Flame Body Burn there is not good, but they are going to go ahead and do so. They're going to get out into Rotom Heat as I do get up my Stealth Rock, which is great. This next turn, I'm going to look to go ahead and just Power Gem, put some damage on this guy as they end up going for a Thunder Wave. And to be fair, nothing on my team wants to take that Thunder Wave, like, at all. The only other thing I could have switched into is Bolt. But though, at the same time, if I go into Bolt, nothing happens because T-Spike are up. So again, a really aggressive play by my opponent. It works out, and again, maybe I should have thought of T-Wave, because this thing being paired is a bit unfortunate. As right here, they are going to pivot and Annihilate, take 13, so this is likely AV, and I'm just going to sack off my Heatran. I've gotten out my rocks. This Meowscarada showed not to be banded, so I know things on my team can take a hit from it, which is nice. And I am just going to sack this guy off. If I can play a Flame Body, hell yeah. They're risking it, so why not? They could have just gone into their Landorus, but they do just go for a CC. They get burned, Helmet, and they're at 52, baby. So I'm going to get out into my Mew right here. And again, this is where that T-Spike really bones me, right? Because if T-Spike isn't up, I Encore, DD up, and I put my opponent in a really, really tough position from here. So I am going to go ahead, DD, take close combat for 15, which is no damage, but then I start taking more damage here, which is a little bit unfortunate. And unfortunately, that was really my best play. Hydro Pump wasn't killing from there. Bolt takes 1,000,000 damage from that Rage Fist / Terra Blast, and Rillaboom doesn't do anything back, right? So kind of have to go in the Mew there. Now, thankfully, takes a ton of damage, and it's really low. It's burned 46. So from here, I'm kind of comfortable about dealing with the ape. I do DD this turn as Landers comes out. This is where being triple axle would have been cool, but at the same time, if I was triple axle, I wouldn't have been able to encore in that position. So I think I went the right set personally. So U-turn comes out, and again, T-Spike's just going to bite me in the ass. Meowscarada's going to pivot out. This at least gives me switch initiative and makes it to where I can pick what I get into Meowscarada on because I don't switch into it at this point. I'm going to go Raging Bolt, and again, we're AV, not boots this game. In this turn, I am going to elect to Volt Switch out, because in my mind, a couple things can happen. I think they can go into Rotom to kind of either sack it off to a Draco, sponge a hit. They can go into Annihilate to put me in an annoying spot there, because even when it's burned, with the T-Spike up, it's not fun to deal with, right? Or they can go for a Play Rough, and I don't want to Draco into a Play Rough and just straight up lose my Mon for no reason. They do elect to Play Rough here. Hindsight, if I go for Discharge, this thing dies, which is nice. But again, I figured that Volt covered the most outcomes, as Meowscarada is going to go for that player. Live on 14, so it only has one more Rock Switching. Even after this terrain boost, only one more Rock Switching, which is good. So it's going to pivot out here. I believe I do U-turn. I did live Axel from that range because it would not have been stabbed from Proteum, which is nice. I get out into my Greninja right here. And from here, I'm putting myself in a pretty good position at this point. We're going to see Annihilate pivot out here. I believe I just drop a Surf. And then from here, mid-ground Ice Beam is going to do a ton of damage to really whatever comes in. Nothing can really pivot on that move. And we're going to pop our Battle Bond. But this is where not being Water Shuriken bites me in the ass. This is Scarf Meowscarada. 100% the way they were playing it, the way they're keeping around in the back. I think I confirmed with them afterwards that they were Scarf. If I'm Shuriken here, I Shuriken this, I win the game. Like, just straight up win the game. Meow's like really one of the only issues to the team left at this point. Landers is in range of Grassy Glide. If I hit the Cyclozar, it's in range. Rotom's really low. Like, we're fine. Unfortunately, it does show to be Scarf, and we are going to have to pivot out of our Rillaboom, or into our Rillaboom. We take 29, so thankfully after Terrain, we'll still live this, but Terrain is also going to get them back up to where they have one more Rock Switching. So again, Shuriken would have been great, but that's life. What can you do? They're going to pivot out into Landers as I U-turn. I don't quite kill, and this is going to force me back out into my Greninja. And I am just going to go ahead and drop a big Ice Beam, pick this guy off, which is obviously very, very valuable. And what this does is either force Meowscarada to revenge me. And if they do that, I'm in a good position because they don't have another switch into Rocks, even if Terrain goes up. If they go into Cyclozar, I can put a lot of damage on it. Depending on the set, I can kill with Ice Beam. It really just depends on, you know, what variant they are rocking with. I am just going to Ice Beam this turn. I don't know if that was a roll. Regardless, roll's not hacks. We do 85, ton of damage, don't get a freeze, and Rapid Spin is going to pick me off from 33%. Rillaboom is going to be my next pivot out here. As I believe I do Grassy Glide, I pick off this Cyclozar. The only unfortunate thing is I kind of have to play in a position where I need my opponent to miss an overheat. If they overheat plus rocks and poison, my Raging Bolt is probably going to die. And obviously my Rillaboom does as well. My Raging Bolt cannot beat Meowscarada super reliably if this Rotom stalls out any turns or puts any damage on me either. So in my mind, I'm thinking my opponent's going to overheat, kill me, and put me in a tough position to lose the endgame. I guess if they overheat, though, they don't kill me, but I mean, it's actually interesting, because if they are Scarf, I Thunderclap into this Meowscarada, right? After this dies, or like I kill this with Draco, and then I Thunderclap into the Meowscarada. It's a matter of if I lived Poison afterwards from a -2 overheat in AV. I'm not sure the calcs. Regardless, my opponent elects a Volt Switch, and the AV is actually coming up clutch on Rillaboom, despite it not really being for anything here. We do live, and what this is going to allow me to do is, after a knockoff, I pick off this Meowscarada, which is incredible. We are going to go down to our Poison right here, right? But my Raging Bolt, despite being at just 13%, we live any one hit from this, and this super dies to Draco Meteor. They can't Pain Split it off. The only way we lose is if they're rest for some reason, right? Which really wouldn't make any sense. So all we have to do, click Draco, and we somehow brought this game back. Only 12%. We live on 3. We Draco Meteor, and it goes to the left. And that's how we lose round 1. Immediately starting in the loser's bracket for this. So obviously that sucked. Do I think I could have played better? Maybe. I think it was honestly in the builder where I kind of fumbled, really not accounting for the T-Spike, going up, because I really didn't want it to go up, so I kind of was avoiding hitting it with physical moves. But regardless, the miss was really bad. We did claw our way back into that endgame, and we would have won if we hit the Draco, but we didn't. That's life. In my mind, I'm like, okay, whatever. This is Swiss, so I believe I'm not exactly sure how it works, to be honest, because I can't count nor read, nor anything intelligent. But to my knowledge, when you got up to 3 losses, you were done in the tournament. And I don't remember how many. I think it's 9 rounds. If you go 6-3 or like 7-2 or better, then you make it onto that final bracket. So we got one more loss and that's it. So we got to be very careful. We really got to pull up and do well in these next couple games. And yeah, let's move on to round 2. Round 2, and we have a game against Joshin right here. Pretty scary squad. We have a Iron Bundle, Smogon Galler, Terra Corviknight, which isn't the best Terramon, but Terra Zarude, which is absolutely terrifying in this matchup. Really, really scary Mon, Sneasler, and Swampert. Let's look at the team that we ended up bringing in this game. First up, we have another AV Raging Bolt. With Terra Steel this week, we take on a lot of his special attackers, especially things like Bundle, being able to resist Ice Beam, take on Hydro Pumps pretty darn well. The main thing is my team really didn't switch into that guy, and it also helps out with Slowking, because Slowking can't hit us very hard either with our Terra Steel, obviously. So that's obviously really nice. Good strong Maw in this matchup, pretty offensive still to do a lot of damage to this team. Then we have Heatran. We're rocking out with a pretty defensive Magma Storm Protect set. We are Magma Storm, Protect, Earth Power, and Flash Cannon in this matchup. Again, really powerful Mon. Magma Storm plus Protect lets us, check things like Smogon Galler and trap them in potentially. Now, if they're Chilly Reception, it's going to be a little bit tougher, but because we're not Taunt. But also, kind of a hard pivot in case I am Taunt, because I would beat that pretty well. So if they Earthquake expecting a Taunt, we Protect, Earth Power, put ourselves in a good spot. We also check guys like Corviknight, and generally chip down teams like this really well and punish, choice users. Then we have a really fun move set. We are Citrus Berry this week with Psychic Fangs, Flare Blitz, Swords Dance, and Trailblaze. Love the immediate power from Swords Dance. That Psychic Fangs plus Trailblaze coverage gets us really to hit everything as hard as humanly possible. And then we have Trailblaze to not only boost speed and be faster than guys like Sneasler or Zarude if they're non-Scarf variants, and same thing with Bundle, but also giving us a absolute really hard hit on guys like Swampert, which is nice. It could have also been Flame Charge, but figured Flare Blitz was enough fire coverage for the week. Then we have a Heavy Duty Boots Greninja. I don't want to get Spike Stacked. I don't want to get poisoned, anything of the sort. We're Dark Pulse, Taunt, Ice Beam, and Water Shuriken. Taunt is going to be great for guys like Corviknight, not allowing them to roost up, which is really nice. Yeah, our coverage is actually pretty darn strong in this matchup, depending on, what things we end up chipping down and whittling down. We also have a Heavy Duty Boots Araquanid, also Terra Water, though I don't expect to tear this Pokemon at all in this game. We're Sticky Web, Liquidation, Trailblaze, and Leech Life. Pretty offensive, but pretty darn bulky. We hit Pokemon like Swampert pretty darn hard with Trailblaze, which is nice. And honestly, there's not really great water resist. Otherwise, Leech Life smokes Zarude pre-Terra, and if it tears, it's going to get smoked by Liquidation. Most likely, at least. So, obviously, that's really nice. And lastly, we have Big Palossand making its debut. Scorching Sand, Stealth Rock, Shore Up, and Shadow Ball is going to be our main check to Sneasler. It shakes it on really well, and the main thing is I want to chip that thing down, going for attacks, U-turning, things like that. If it ever decides to make contact, it's going to take a lot of damage, so that's obviously great. Alrighty, that being said, let's go ahead, jump right into it. I do lead off with my Araquanid. Again, if you look at my opponent's team, they don't have good water resistance. I want to put on some immediate pressure. Now, we see a Slowking lead, and I'm totally comfortable staying in, hitting this thing with the Liquidation, gauging some damage. We see 60% on that guy as it goes down to 40, and here I'm pretty confident they're just going to pivot out into either Corviknight or Swampert. They're not going to let this die, so I am going to go ahead and just Sticky Web up. Next turn, though, I am going to go for a Trailblaze, do 42% to the big guy, a ton of damage, to be completely honest. The Stealth Rock do go up, and I take the Future Sight, but again, not too big of a deal. Corviknight's going to come out this next turn, I believe, going ahead and taking a Liquidation, as I didn't expect them to want to stay and take that damage. Unfortunately, though, it is Rocky Helmet. Otherwise, I probably would just stay in and spam Liquidation, get a drop, and put them in a bad spot if they ever tried to roost. But I see that that's a losing battle, being that they are Helmet. I'm going to pivot out immediately, but it does give me my Heatran and gives me a ton of damage on something in the back, which is really nice. Guys like Swampert can come out, but I can just Magma Storm, Protect, probably go Araquanid afterwards, right? And, kind of deal with it that way. Unfortunately, to the left. So we are going to miss there, and the Swampert's going to start slowly getting back some leftovers chip. Knockoff comes out right here, and I take a ton of damage. Now, right here, I'm going to make a bit of an aggressive play. Maybe I was tripping to do it because I don't kill the Swampert, but in my head, I'm like, okay, I died a helmet. You have a Corviknight at full health. Even if I liquidation call you, I die, and you're fine. I want to double into Heatran to keep this as a sack and get off a strong Magma Storm. Again, chipping down the Swampert, sacking off my Araquanid, and dealing with it a little bit later. So I am going to double out. My opponent does elect to just knock off, though. This is really, really bad for me. I am just going to end up sacking my Araquanid here, and I don't get anything out of this turn, unfortunately. So leftovers are going to pop. This thing's back at 90 after being at, like, 60%. I go into my Greninja, again, expecting them to not let me Battle Bond with webs up. They are going to... I figured they'd pivot out and scout for the Grass Knot. They do not. Knockoff comes out right here. I lose my boots. Obviously, they could tell I was boots before that. So again, I don't know if they needed to knock off the boots considering they're on a hazard-centric approach. Go for a Dark Pulse, and I try and get a flinch here. As I don't really break this Pokemon, Earthquake is going to smoke me. So pretty offensive on it as well, because it just OHKO'd me with Earthquake from 74. Thankfully, my Bolt can come in. Draco Meteor, drop this guy. Next up, Corviknight comes out. I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to outspeed this thing. I'm going to Volt out because I don't want to take unnecessary damage, and this thing can kind of like restall me out at -2. So I'm going to Volt out, get into my Heatran, as we do see the Terra Grass on this turn, of all things. So we don't have to worry about Terra Zarude, which I believe in this game was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was Terra Ground, so don't have to worry about Terra Ground and do a team with no ground resist, which is pretty incredible, to be completely honest with you. Defog's gonna pop, and this turn I am just going to go ahead and Magma Storm. If they want to U-turn, they will die to Helmet, or they'll die to whatever move they come into afterwards. They stay in and Body Press me, they're gonna drop. So totally fine with me. Next up, Sneasler comes out, and I'm not gonna sack this just yet. I can use this as Flame Body. What do you call it? A Flame Body bait on guys like Zarude here in a moment. And Palossand completely walls this guy and can get up Stealth Rock pretty freely, which is really nice. Close Combat comes out. We do obviously, dodge that because we're immune. Gonna get up rocks. And again, this is the Heatran sack. I'm gonna pivot out immediately as a U-turn pops. And again, the greed gets to people. I'm going to take a Flame Body there and go out into Slowking of all Pokemon. Now, I'm fine with just trying to get some damage off on this guy and Magma Storming. If they want to attack me and kill me, sure, I'm going to chip them down nice and low. If they go for this passive Future Sight play right here, that's also fine with me because I'm going to be able to kill this thing. And put my opponent in a rough position, right? So, out comes Sneasler next. I am just going to go ahead and sack this guy off. There's a Future Sight in the air, so nothing wants to switch in. And again, we're baiting Flame Body. They didn't want to go into Bundle probably because they weren't boots. They didn't want to take the extra Rocks chip, but that's fine with me. I bait that poison on the Sneasler. It does turn out to be White Herb, so it is going to be faster than everything on my team, even if this Mew does get up the Trailblaze. I go into Mew right here because this is burned. I'm really not all that concerned about it. I'm just concerned about Dire Claw shenanigans. I'm going to Sword Stance, put myself in a really good position as a Psychic Fangs is going to hit here. We don't get poisoned, slept, or anything of the sort. We knock out this guy. Zarude comes out, and again, I have a pretty free Flare Blitz. I have a full health AV Raging Bolt. I just Terra Steel and Discharge on. And this guy dies to +2 Flare Blitz, does not kill me with Knockoff. As I go through and Knockoff pops, doesn't kill me, and I fucking misclick. I think you guys know that I know that Zarude is immune to psychic moves, and he had already terrored on this thing. I'm telling you, this tournament was an experience. So I've just thrown away my endgame potentially. I am going to die right here. I have to go out into my Raging Bolt. Now, Raging Bolt can beat this thing 1v1, or at least put crazy damage on it, but the only issue... As I Terra Steel for some reason. I didn't really need to Terra yet, but I also don't think it mattered. I guess it put me at risk for a Psychopath Close Combat, which would have been a good neutral click. But regardless, I get off a strong Draco. I lose my Assault Vest, though. While this Draco does bring it low, it does not kill the Zarude. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pivot up Palossand. 1, because it attacking me is going to hurt me. 2, I can take hits from this thing, regardless, when it's burned. I'm Fist Step Palossand. I also lose to Bundle anyways. I need to preserve health on Bolt. So, Knockoff pops. It is going to get rid of my Rocky Helmet, and I am just going to Shadow Ball, pick this thing off. Out comes Bundle. It is going to go ahead and take some Rocks damage, kill me with Ice Beam. I just click Shadow Ball, do as much damage as possible. Out comes Biggie Bolter. I Thunderclap, and they end up being Substitute. Now, thank goodness they were not Encore. If they were Encore, I lost the game. that simple. The game was over. Thankfully, they are not. They hit me with a hydro pump. I discharged. This next turn, I am going to get this 50-50 right. Discharge on their sub. And now it's a matter of do they call it and go for the hydro pump? They also have to hit the hydro pump, or they go for a sub again. They go for the hydro pump, and I kill them with thunderclap. I mean, misclicking. I lost that game if I didn't get those 50-50s right? Really, really cursed. We obviously, got pretty unlucky missing that first Magma Storm too, but it's also not like a game-changing play, so I'm not going to complain about that one. But man, first 2 games, and we are having an experience right now, chat. And we'll see how it ends up going in round 3 here. Alrighty, round 3, going against Lucy Luke. Both of us are 1-1. I also forgot to mention that, like, in Swiss, you play people of the same record as you, at least for this portion of the tournament, guaranteed. So we're both 1-1 this game. Again, really, really important one. We see some pretty scary threats in the squad, like Rillaboom, Palafin, Terra Halucha, Terra Ironmoth, Zapdos, and Rabombi. So lots of big, scary threats on the opposing side. Let's see what we rocked out with. We're rocking out with a Calm Mind Raging Bolt for the first time. And this time again, Terra Dragon. Really no switch into the combination of our stabs at all. Rabombi gets blown up by a discharge, and really a thunderclap after just a little bit of chip when we get up to +1. Everything else gets pieced up by that Terra Dragon Pulse, which is really nice. So I didn't really feel the need to change my defensive typing either. It kind of helps me check a lot. So I was here for the general defensive typing. Rillaboom is going to be our main chick to Palafin. We are a pretty defensive variant with protective pads, so we can pretty freely knock off and U-turn into that Zapdos slot. It's going to be great in forcing chip on that guy, forcing that guy to come in, lose his boots, take rocks, and getting lead seeds off is also going to be nice in keeping our team healthy as well. Grass Glide is obviously to pick off that Palafin, or like a Terra Ground, what do you call it? Iron Moth, which is a very likely possibility considering we have a Heatran. Speaking of Heatran is next. We're Lava Plume, Earth Power, and Dirt, and Will-O-Wisp. This is going to be kind of our main pivot into guys like Rillaboom, but really doesn't offer much outside of that. Rillaboom and Rabombi, the main thing is it's actually really obnoxious for him to switch into, despite not being invested at all. Lava Plume is incredibly free here. Anything but Iron Moth can not really comfortably switch into it. Like, guys like Zapdos don't appreciate switching in, taking a burn, and having to burn a bunch of their roost, right? And especially because we can hit it with an Earth Power on the roost. Really valuable. Palafin, burned. Rillaboom, burned/dead. And Rabombi dead. So I think Lava Plume is actually incredibly free. Endure is just to bait extra Flame Body and Helmet turns on guys like Palafin, if at all possible. Same thing with Rillaboom. More chances to get those burns. You have a Heavy Duty Boots Greninja again. We are once again Battle Bond with Hydro Pump, Dark Pulse, Grass Knot, and Water Shuriken. Water Shuriken is going to be great for like booster speed. Iron Moss, it's going to be great for guys like Halucha if they get chipped down, and even like Agility Zapdos, which can be actually a big problem for this team if Raging Bolt gets chipped. And we have a Muset, pretty interesting. We're like the kind of slow setup variant. In hindsight, I really don't like this set this week. I think there's definitely way better Musets I could have brought in. I think their team's too fast and offensive, but that's kind of the thing with these tournaments. You don't prep as in-depthly. I'm not taking mocks for these, so I got into the game and I was like, wow, I don't really see where I position this and set this up other than maybe like a really slow Zapdos. I can set it up on that thing, Calm Mind up, Iron Defense, and if it gets rolling, I mean, if we got like 2 Calm Minds and an Iron Defense, shit just wins, right? But it's also a matter of getting to that position, which is kind of hard. And then a Fizdef Palisand, it's great. Halucha check. We're just same moveset as we were last time. So Rocker, Scorching Sands, Shadow Ball, Shorp, and Stealth Rock. Pretty simple stuff. Pretty darn good Pokemon here. Alrighty, that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I do lead off with my Heatran. I want to punish that Palafin lead if it wants to flip turn out. Hell yeah, I can get Helmet, Beta Burn, Lava Plume into something, put myself in a good spot. Zapdos is going to lead and click Discharge immediately, not Volt. I expected a Volt, so not the worst thing in the world. I do pivot out this turn. I don't want to get parried or take any more chip than that, as it does go for the discharge. Now, keep in mind, too, I understand I'm using Calm Mind with no Clear Amulet. Now, why would you run Clear Amulet on your Calm Mind Raging Bolt? Well, very often a tech that Zapdos is run to not get set up on by a Raging Bolt is they will run Eerie Impulse to drop your special attack and basically just like PP stall you out and screw you over that way. Part of it was me not really expecting that because I think AV and like just like offensive 4 attacks was really strong here. So they're kind of wasting turns if I Volt out. But part of it is just me kind of thinking that set's not super public knowledge and we're not in like a high bracket of the tournament or anything like that yet. So I kind of soul read and just said, they're not bringing it. And thankfully, they do not bring it. As they do U-turn out right here, I am just going to go ahead and I believe throw off a big discharge, do a decent amount of damage to this Rillaboom. Not the most in the world, but we also see that we're faster, which is really good information for later in case they want to hit us with a knockoff or a high horsepower. Speaking of knockoff, they click it here, take helmet, and take a burn, which is beautiful for me, as I believe I do just throw off one more Lava Plume, or do I pivot out into Rillaboom? You pivot out into Rillaboom as Palafin comes out. I would love to throw it off what do you call it right there? I get a bird on this guy, but it also might have been special. Who knows? Zapdos is going to come out next. I do just U-turn because I want to get in my Raging Bolt as much as humanly possible right now. I really want to punish this guy for either making this passive Roost play or going out into something that I can deal with well, like something like the Rillaboom. As I do Calm Mind up on this Roost, and they go, uh-oh, what do we do here? They're going to U-turn out, get a crit. Dang it. And go into Rabombi, hoping I go for a Dragon Pulse. It's not happening. I just discharge this turn because discharge into Dragon Pulse is going to do a shit ton to that Rillaboom, and I know I'm faster and pretty comfortable around that guy. Out comes the Rillaboom this turn. Now, at this point, there's no reason for me to take the knockoff because I don't like OHKO it from this perspective, or from this range. They do U-turn, so good aggressive play by the opponent. And right here, Palafin's going to come out. I'm going to pivot into Rillaboom, as I don't know if it's physical, special, whatever it may be. If Flip turns right here, again, really risky considering I could just sack this off to Beta Flame Body, but it ends up working out okay. Iron Moth comes in. I forgot to mention the Terra types. Let me scroll up and double check. I'm pretty sure they were Ground. Yeah, it was Dragon and Ground. So it's Terra, Dragon, Hallucinant, which is not something I expected. But regardless, they are going to go ahead and just off an attack here. I go into my Heatran because honestly, I'd like to force this to Terra. And if they don't Terra, I get a decently strong attack off on something, but they set up the damn T-Spike. And again, this is part of the reason why the Mew doesn't work, and part of the reason why the Raging Bolt doesn't just 6-0 from here, right? So having a T-Spike weak team with no grounded poison, real big bite my ass. I probably should have prioritized that over the Mienshao that has not come in the first 3 rounds, right? So unfortunate, but that's life. They're going to pivot out into Zapdos as I go into Greninja. I'm going to pivot Heatran right here. Again, just because I know I can take 2 discharge, especially with terrain, and try and bait a burn into this guy and get some damage off on it right now. As we do see a big discharge here. I don't get the burn. I do like nothing. This is very Spadef on the Zapdos. And I'm going to go on to my Raging Bolt this upcoming turn right here. I do Terra Dragon immediately as a U-turn comes out, and Rillaboom's going to be the pivot. And I'm just going to go ahead and Dragon Pulse. And again, we know we're faster. We resist burned glide, so it's not like it does anything. We see that that is just a raw 2-hit KO from this range. And I'm just going to go ahead and Dragon Pulse once again. Pick this guy off and get rid of that big nuisance there in the Rillaboom, which was a pretty good pivot to a lot of my team. Now here I make a really stupid play. Really stupid play. This thing comes in, Terra Dragon. I'm Terra Dragon, Dragon Pulse. Like, nothing this thing can do can OHKO me. They have to Terra in this instance or they get blown up by a discharge. Dragon Pulse hits both, so I always should be Dragon Pulsing this scenario, or I always should be going into Palossand, but I don't. I click Discharge this turn thinking maybe they would overplay and, they were going to metagame me into thinking they wouldn't. I don't know. I get the para, which is fine, but I take 1,000,000 damage on my Raging Bolt for no KO in return, so... Again, unfortunate. I do force them into that Terra, which is nice. Now I don't have to worry about the Moth Terraing because I don't really have good ground resist. But at the same time, the Moth Terraing would be a good thing because my Rillaboom could revenge it. Thankfully, they get parried right here, which is totally fine. I believe I am going to be a little bit overzealous and get at my rocks here, which honestly, I wasn't really worried about this thing at +2 anyways. Just needed to ship it down. As SD comes out, I am creeping this thing on my Greninja, so being that it's parried now, it wasn't really ever an issue. I could always come in and pick it off afterwards. As Acrobatics is going to pop, I Shadow Ball again. I pick this thing off right here. Down it goes. Down goes my Palossand. Out comes Iron Moth next as I do end up going into Mew. And again, if I'm a more offensive set, this thing can go crazy right here. I can either DD, I could just Psychic, I could Nasty, I probably wouldn't Nasty Plot. It would have to be a speed boosting set. Otherwise, I just throw off a strong Psychic onto something. Unfortunately, we are going to get Fire Blast crit, but realistically, I don't think it matters because I'd probably have to attack the next turn anyways. I get 2 decently strong stored powers off, but nothing really game-changing or consequential. So we go down there, get nothing out of our Mew, get onto my Boots Gren. Zapdos comes out, and again, it is Spadef as hell. Now, really, at this point, I don't have an answer for this. I let my Bolt take too much damage. My Rillaboom obviously loses to this thing. I see one out. We're not Ice Beam on the set, right? Ice Beam, we probably kill right here because we did 35. 35 from Hydro does not kill. It's Dark Pulse flinch time, baby. We go for the Dark Pulse. We get the flinch, which is absolutely massive. I'm going to go ahead and Dark Pulse one more time. Out it goes. We're going to pop our Battle Bond immediately. And out comes the Palafin. Now, that obviously saved us, right? Like, it keeps the game going. Has the game won? No. If this is like AV or Rindo, it blows us up with a close combat right here, and then we probably lose. We need to keep this around in order to kill the Iron Moth. Otherwise, again, we lose. So we need to ensure that we can take that on, right? Out comes the Palafin here. I'm going to go ahead, sack my Rillaboom, or go into my Rillaboom, sorry, on the close combat, which would have blown me up otherwise. And then from this position, I believe, do I U-turn? Like a demon? Or do I glide? I think I just glide. It wouldn't have killed anyways. Get off a little bit of damage into this Iron Moth. And from here, I am going to pivot out into my Raging Bolt, sack it off to a Sludge Wave, and from here, I think I'm in an okay position, right? As long as I hit Hydro Pump. If I hit Hydro Pump on this thing and I kill it, heck yeah, they go into the Palafin, I click Grass Knot, I have an answer in my Rillaboom still. As long as it clicks Close Combat, which is only move to kill me, it'll be in range, right? So, sick, beautiful, wonderful. If they go into the Palafin here, if they take this Hydro Pump, even if they're AV, very, very likely that they die to Grass Knot because the terrain is still up. They click the Grass Knot, we knock them out. I never found out their item. And then from here, Iron Moth comes back out, we Hydro Pump, we actually don't end up killing, which is pretty funny, but even if we didn't kill there, and it killed me, I have my Rillaboom to pick it off from 4%, and we're able to pick up a win. Really solely on the back of that flinch. Again, I'd like to kind of take us a walk through the first 3 rounds of the tournament thus far. Round 1, we played pretty well, maybe got smoked in the build a little bit, but we played pretty well, lost off of a Draco Miss. Round 2, I misclicked in my game and had to crawl my way back, and honestly should have been punished for that misclick a little bit more than I was, and I was really punished early in the game for being over aggressive and started down really early. This game, I literally only won because of flinch. Zapdos beat me otherwise. Smoked my team from there, right? So we are 2-1 in the worst way humanly possible. We go into round 4 though. Again, only 1 loss. We can really only afford 2. The third one is when you're donezo. So let's jump into round 4. Round 4 against Band Legacy Armo here. Really, really scary matchup. We have Chi-Yu, Sneasler, Corviknight. We have the Terra Manaphy, which I believe is Terra Dragon in this game. What's up with Terra Dragon in my team? We have the Screamtail and Sandy Shocks. Now, lots of big issues in this team. The main thing that I'm super, super worried about is Chi-Yu. His team facilitates Chi-Yu really well. The guys on my team that beat a lot of his team, guys like Rillaboom, guys like Palossand, into pivots into guys like, Sneasler, into pivots into like, Sandy Shocks, things of the sort. They all get blown up by Chi-Yu, and I do not have a Dark Pulse resist anywhere. We cannot say Mienshao. Don't yell at me for not bringing Mienshao. It doesn't deal with it. Now, the closest semblance to an answer to Chi-Yu I have on my team is Spadef Heatran, but other than that, it's going to be pretty difficult. My game plan to Chi-Yu is basically get up rocks and chip it down, and hopefully put in range something else, revenge it offensively, put him in a bad spot. But let's go and start it off. First up, we have Raging Bolt here. We are a Heavy Dew Boot set. We are Terra Poison in this matchup. Finally, a non-stab typing. We are Dragon, or I guess a second non-stab typing, but not Dragon again. Dragon Pulse, Discharge, Terra Blast, and Thunderclap. Really strong offensively in this game, to be completely honest. As long as we catch that Sandy Shocks with strong Dragon Pulses throughout the game, Discharge and Terra Blast Poison is going to be great. Terra Blast Poison in particular, great into guys like Screamtail if they're trying to switch in and pivot in on us. Then we have, it also helps us check Sneasler really well. Then we have Heatran, again, very, very spread out from the set. We're Lava Plume, Flash Cannon, Earth Power, Protect. Pretty simple stuff. Flash Cannon lets us hit the Screamtail, Earth Power for the Chi-Yu, Lava Plume just baits and burns. Be annoying. We are Flash Fire with Leftovers as our item. Then we have Grand, once again, Heavy Duty Boots. Have to run a bunch of boots. Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Water Shuriken, and Taunt. Taunt is great for Pokemon like Screamtail, Pokemon like Manaphy, Pokemon like Corviknight. Once I chip them down, especially Corviknight and Screamtail, once I chip them down, they have means of recovery. Stopping them from doing that and then getting out really opens up ground. Next time, I have to be a bit aggressive, but can definitely do well. We have a Nasty Plot Mew here. Psychic, Vacuum, Shadow Ball, and Nasty Plot don't have great coverage for the Corviknight, but I also feel like I pressure Corviknight really well. And if I can do that, this coverage is really, really strong in this game. And with Rocks up, it's pretty difficult to deal with, to be completely honest. Rocking out the Palossand is going to be our rocker. Need to get him up. Very important to get them up. It's also going to be our main Sneasler check, and it pivots into Corviknight pretty well. So, and then lastly, we have AV, Rillaboom, Grassy Glide, Knockoff, U-turn, High Horsepower. This is going to be our main pivot into Sandy Shocks. Functions as a great pivot. U-turns around, knocks off things. And if we catch guys like Sneasler or Chi with a High Horsepower, they're going to take a shit ton of damage. So, that's obviously nice. Alrighty, that being said, let's jump into it. I am going to go ahead and immediately lead off with my Rillaboom, and that was a mistake, as Chi-Yu is going to be leading. And I think that's a really important thing when you're thinking of, planning out your leads and picking your leads. You can't put yourself in this position that I just put myself in. I have literally no answer. If I get smoked by Chi-Yu this bad, I need to lead something that does not immediately force me to sack something on my team or take a shit ton of damage, right? And that's basically what happens here. I can't stay in or I get 6-0'd by Shock soon. So I am going to pivot out. I think my Rillaboom is still really impressive. It also checks Manaphy really well. As Dark Pulse pops, it does 49% here. I get leftovers and terrain back, which is great, but they feel comfortable just staying in Dark Pulsing, which is fair to an extent. I don't Oko them. However, this Earth Power chip is really nice for me because it's going to put in range of Shuriken. It's going to help out with +2 Vacuum Wave calcs, and if I get up Rocks, it puts in range of everything. It really limits this thing's switch-ins, which is the whole point of this team. Immediately, I do get flinched, and that's really, really bad. I can't get out of range of this, unfortunately, at all. And it's not even like it's worth saving this thing. I could for the fire immunity, but why do they ever need to not click Dark Pulse? Right? I guess Rillaboom. Regardless, I get out of my Greninja right here. I'm going to double into Raging Bolt on the Screen Tail coming out. This also covered Corviknight being a Spit F pivot. I Terra Poison immediately. I am going to go ahead and discharge, do about 24%. Them getting up Rocks is going to, again, limit those switch-ins even more. I'm going to go ahead and throw off a Terra Blast, get a full para. Very nice. And then maybe get a roll right here. We do get a roll right here, and we're going to pick off the Screen Tail. So we've at least evened the game. But again, this is what I'm talking about. Rillaboom, Volt Switch, or Scorching Sands, sorry. And if they volted there, I probably lost on the spot. They go into Corviknight. I believe I am just going to knock off. Yeah, we knock off an item. Want to punish an aggressive Chi-Yu, at least get rid of its item. / cover this Rocky Helmet. And a U-turn out this turn. But again, there's not much I can do. I go into my Palisand in an aggressive attempt to get up Rocks immediately. I need Rocks up. I need to limit the amount of time that this Chi-Yu can come in. But again, this Corviknight's just U-turning. Out comes Chi-Yu. Goodbye, a singular Pokemon. I don't have an answer to this, unfortunately. Greninja's going to come out, Overheat pops, and that's a dead Pokemon. I also don't have an Overheat switch in. Fun fact, don't have a Fire Resist anymore, especially because I Terra'd my Bolt. So we've put ourselves in a really, really tough position right here. Would have loved the damage on that Chi-Yu earlier, because we wouldn't be in the same position. Thunderbolt's going to pop here into my Rillaboom. Again, they're not Volting, so maybe they don't have Volt. Maybe they're Hazard variant. Maybe they're Choice Scarf. That also potentially makes sense here. And U-turn. Again, we're trying our hardest. I need to get up my Stealth Rock. I need to get them up. Roost is going to pop. I do get up my Rocks here. And again, at least if they defog, they get rid of their own Rocks, which is nice, which they can't get them back up. But again, the issue is then I don't have mine, right? I'm just going to Shadow Ball, get a little bit of chip. Again, we're going to see a hard Chi-Yu here. Good aggressive play. I get at my Rocks because I'm tunneled. I need to get chip on this guy. I got them up at least. Now I just need to prevent the Corviknight from defogging. But again, it's not like we're in a great position. Sandy Shocks is going to come out. I believe I discharged this turn. I'm not quite sure why. I think I always have to Dragon Pulse that turn. There is no Dragon Resist. It's not Corviknight. I guess I didn't want to let in Corviknight to potentially defog after. So, I don't know. We'll see. Get out into my Rillaboom. Again, is it U-turn time? It's U-turn time. Get out into Biggie Bolter. Do I discharge this turn? I discharge this turn again. I'm really, really worried about those Rocks going away. Again, it wouldn't be the case if, this thing was a little bit more chipped. But again, to be honest, I don't know if it's just a matchup thing or if it's in the builder. I really struggled. But yeah, I needed a better plan in the Chi-Yu. I needed a better lead. I need a better positioning. And I'm sure you guys can see where this game is going. We are trying our best right now, but we are flailing. Do I discharge? I do, because I didn't think they'd want to sack the Shocks. But again, I figured they might try and sack just to maybe get a defog off or something like that. The Volt Switch finally pops, and at this point, the game is over, because I can't prevent this defog. Defog goes away. Chi-Yu wins. Nothing I can do, unfortunately, at this point. I'm going to get out into my Mew, try and pressure. It actually U-turns. Oh, wow, they didn't defog. It takes Rocks here. It would have been, so again, keep in mind, it takes this Vacuum Wave, or it takes Rocks, it took the Earth Power earlier. It's definitely in range of Vacuum Wave from there. But again, that's life, baby. Dark Pulse pops. Again, just trying to save some differential. We're going to Thunderclap, do about 44. We drop, out comes Mew, just 28. And yeah, that is game. So we got absolutely rolled. Now, would I say I won the game if I didn't get flinched? Not at all. I think it was an uphill battle regardless, but as soon as that flinch happened, the game was over. it was super, super over. And again, that's Mons. That's this run. We're 2-2 right now. We have the room for one more loss. We lose one more game, or we have no more room for losses. We lose one more game. Tournament's over, and we get to go watch from the sidelines. So it's time to nut up for the rest of the tournament and see how far we can get with this pretty cursed run thus far. Alrighty, round 5. Again, like I said, do or die. We're going against Flutterfliss, so whichever one of us loses this is out of the tournament. And it's kind of that way from here on out. We see pretty cool team here. We have Pecharunt, Terra Tornadus, it ends up being Terra Fairy in this game, Bramblegas, another Sandy Shocks, Iron Valiant, so Terra Torn plus Iron Valiant is pretty crazy, alongside a great Spiker and a Hisuian Samurott that we do not switch into. So definitely a very, very rough matchup. Let's go ahead and look at the team we are rocking out with this week. First up, Boots Offensive Bolt. You're going to see there's going to be a big theme of running Boots on fucking everything going forward, just because of how my team's set up. We're rocking out with Terra Dragon. Once again, there's no switching, right? The Fairy is going to be Valiant, which gets blown up by any attack. And otherwise, Draco, Meteor, and Dragon Pulse are incredibly free, and I want to click the button as much as possible. Obviously, Valiant does still blow us up, when it comes to our defensive typing, but it really doesn't appreciate switching in, and everything else, the Dragon typing is actually pretty good neutrally into defensively, so pretty offensive this game, and hopefully we'll just drop some Dracos and do some damage. Even if the Torn is Terra, it's not going to appreciate switching in a Modest Discharge, and has to get the Terra off first. And we have Greninja here, our heavy-duty boots, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, and Grass Knot. Again, really strong Pokemon in this matchup. If we get the Battle Bond off, we get the proper chip that we need with guys like Bolt. This guy can super win. The main thing we have to keep in mind, be mindful for, is like a Assault Vest Samurott. So that's definitely very scary. We have a Max Spadef Heatran here. We are Lava Plume, Earth Power, Stealth Rock, and Protect. Protect is just for passive lefties chip, and it's going to allow us to check guys like Torn pretty darn well. Good rocker in this game, and yeah, just a solid overall mom. We have a Fizdef Rocky Helmet, or a Fizdef-ish Rocky Helmet Mienshao here. This is going to be our main pivot into the Samurott. It's going to allow us to come in, at least punish it for taking an attack, and then U-turn out. Obviously, there's an incredible check in Pecharunt. Knockoff barely does anything other than remove its item, but otherwise, we can U-turn around. Triple Axle hits certain, resist like Bramblegas, and if Sandy Shocks wants to pivot in, we can blow that thing up. Or at least do a lot of damage. We don't kill it from full. And pre-Terra Torn, which is nice. But it's really just here to pivot into the Samurott and get us U-turn initiative, maybe knock off some items. Mew is here with a Colbur Berry, Psychic Fangs, Close Combat, Triple Axle, and Dragon Dance. If we can get rid of the Samurott, chip it down low, we can have a Dragon Dance. This guy can super win. Same thing with the Pecharunt. Obviously, we have to chip it down pretty considerably to get in range of a +1 Psychic Fangs, but then the hardest thing in the world. If you look at this Pokemon at +1, Psychic Fangs, Close Combat, Triple Axle absolutely smokes through this team. Not much takes it on, which is nice. And then lastly, we have a pretty mixed defensive Palisand. This is actually going to be our Valiant check. I was very surprised looking at the calcs how well this takes on non-choice Valiants. Choice Valiant does 2k with Moonblast, but we do have Heatran to pivot in there. This thing's obviously immune to fighting. Specs Energy Ball, same thing, it would 2-hit KO us, but it's not going to 2-hit KO Heatran, which we can pivot into then, or even Raging Bolt to pick a KO. So as long as it's not choice specs, we take it on pretty well. And yeah, that being said, let's jump into it. So again, we see that it is Terra Fairy Torn, which is a little bit scary. We do see a lead, Torn right here. As they go hard out into Sandy Shocks, I am going to go ahead and click Discharge, forcing not get the KO. They click Eerie Impulse, so that tech I was talking about was Zapdos earlier, but Terra Dragon Draco still does 49%. I'm going to pivot out this turn because there's no reason to take damage as Thunder Wave does pop, so that's great. Great turn for me. I am going to Stealth Rock up. Oh no, why didn't I Stealth Rock? Maybe we should just Stealth Rocked up. I am going to Scorching Sands, trying to punish that thing from attacking us, or the Samurott coming in. Heatran's going to pivot out. Bleak Wind Storm. Alrighty with me. And I believe... Oh no, it's because we're not rocks on that thing. Oh, and you just looked at the team, dumbass. I am rocks on this thing, and this is when we get them up. My fault, y'all. Samurot's going to pivot out. I do pivot into Mienshao. See, this flip turn does a ton of damage still, but at least we're forcing damage on it. That plus rocks is really going to help us out with our Greninja here in a little bit. Bramblegas comes out, and again, I feel pretty comfortable just going for U-turn, chipping this down, pivoting out, or even just knocking off its item, but we end up seeing that it's actually a Choice Scarf variant, and it's just going to OHKO my Mienshao. Hindsight, don't switch into Bramblegas. However, me confirming that this is Scarf locks it into this move and really allows me a pretty aggressive play of going for a Grass Knot into this Hisuian Samurott, to it killing out the switch in, or OHKOing it damn near if it's like a what do you call it, Scarf variant. But this damage shows me that this is definitely AV, but I do more than enough to 2-hit KO this guy and proc my Battle Bond immediately. Now from this position, if they're not like AV Torn, they get blown up. We see it come in, it is definitely AV. Terra Fairies, I do 27, so just about nothing. Hydro Pump wouldn't have killed, but we get the freeze. I'm telling you guys, when I play well, I get smoked. At least in that first game. I've been getting super lucky in the other games, and then this game comes along and I get a freeze. Now, this is insanely game-changing. It essentially locks me the game if they get frozen for enough turns. Like, completely locks me in the game. Do I think I still have pieces to win if I didn't? I was kind of just going with offense this game. Hopefully setting up a DD Mew endgame. But this makes things a little bit easier. As a Hydro Pump here, I don't quite kill. I do 44, and from here, I'm just clicking Ice Beam. I'm not missing Ice Beam or Dark Pulse, one of the two. Yeah, Ice Beam, just because it hits this thing neutrally, and then this new super effectively. Petron can come out here. It doesn't threaten me with an Oko, so like even if it lives because it's Colbur right here, I still got off a crazy hit on it. And again, this is the chip I need for Mew to win, and that's kind of my end game at this point. And I get the flinch. Again, I think at this point I won with Mew, just considering that the Torn was frozen. But again, it really just took away any chance humanly possible for our opponent to claw back into this. So I apologize. I Ice Beam there. I didn't even get the kill, which is pretty funny. But they live on one, stay frozen. And then Sandy Shock's going to come out. It's going to show us a Citrus Berry. Dark Pulse is going to pop. And I believe I just Ice Beam this next turn. I don't know why I Dark Pulse. I don't think it really mattered, to be honest. Ice Beam was definitely better. But Torn comes out. They're going to pivot into Valiant, just trying to get enough regen back to live one hit at the very least. I do live a Vacuum Wave from here. I'm going to kill this thing with an Ice Beam. And then lastly, it's just going to be Torn coming back out. Do I Hydro Pump just to see if we can hit it? We sure do. Down goes the Torn. And again, pretty damn lucky game from us. I mean, the games we've won, we've gotten pretty fortunate. And the games we've lost, we've gotten pretty unfortunate. When I say this is the most cursed tournament run of all time, at least that I've personally had or seen, I'm not lying to you. So not only do we win this game, our next round opponent just forfeited on like a Tuesday. So that took us, we were 2-2 going into this game, 3-2, 4-2 after round 6, and now we're going to move on into round 7 against PKCC. Let's jump into that. Alrighty, here's round 7 against PKCC. Pretty terrifying team. He has Terra Cyclozar and Terra Boulder. Terra Grass Boulder in this game, which is actually really obnoxious considering the priority options that I have are all resisted by Grass. So very good bring by the opponent. Goldango is a Pokemon that I really struggle switching into. Then we have Mesprit, Tinglu, and Pincurchin showing up. And I was like, wow, Pincurchin's here. I wonder why. It's because it gets fucking T-Spikes and I'm getting T-Spiked on again. Please learn from my mistakes. Don't always draft a Grounded Poison because you think you need to, but if your team Grounded Poison week or T-Spike week, please get one. I'm running so many boots in this game. First up, Boots Gren. We are Hydro Pump, Water Shuriken, Dark Pulse, and Sludge Wave. Really strong offensively. There was also an Ozzy on the bench, hence the Sludge Wave. We don't have coverage for AV Cyclozar because I figured hitting Ozzy was a little bit more important. I wasn't as worried about Cyclozar, especially because it also doesn't really throw no-cos on me if it's AV. And I'm Boots, so I shouldn't really be taking hits very often. Again, AV again, or Boots again, we have a very physically defensive Raging Bolt here to take hits from guys like Iron Boulder pretty well. And again, Terra Dragon. There wasn't a switch in. The Fairy was Azu. The Steel and Goldango, I really appreciate getting the Dragon move off on. And if we hit it with a Discharge or a Volt Switch, we're also in a good spot. Thunderclap, strong priority. You know the drill. It's Raging Bolt. Then we have Weakness Policy Mew here. This is actually going to be our lead. We are Psychic Fangs, Close Combat, Knockoff, and Spikes. I really want to Spike Stack my opponent. I feel like it's impossible for them to spin into my Palisand, which is in the back here. So because of that, I want to get up as many spikes as possible, keep guys low, keep guys in range of our Greninja, and guys in range of our Raging Bolt, which are our main two offensive pieces in this matchup. Then we have Palisand here, Scorching Sands, Shore Up, Shadow Ball, and Stealth Rock. Again, more hazards. This was our main Boulder pivot as well, but then it was Terra Grass. Oh shit. Don't deal with it as well, right? We can still bait Burns into it, and again, get Shadow Ball chip off on it. We'll live one guaranteed, which is nice. And again, it's kind of going to be the plan into that guy. Then we have a Citrus Berry Rillaboom. This guy's just going to function as a general pivot and do a lot of our opponent's team. Things like Mesprit, things like Tinglu, things like Pincurchin, and even things like Boulder we'll be able to take 2 from pretty easily guaranteed with our Citrus Berry and Terrain, which is nice. And lastly, we have a Spidef Heatran. We are Lava Plume, Protect, Earth Power, Flash Cannon. Honestly, really annoying for our opponent to switch into. We bait burns on guys like Tinglu, and we're actually in a really, really good position into our opponent's team, which is really, really nice. Alrighty, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the battle. Again, we see that it is grass in normal on the Cyclozar, so I'm not worried about the Cyclozar tearing at all. I think they should have at least like scared me a little bit with the typing, but they didn't elect to. We're gonna see lead Pincurchin, and wouldn't you know it, we see stupid T-Spikes go up immediately. So they're gonna get up T-Spikes. I'm gonna elect to get up all 3 of my layers of hazards. They actually end up getting up 2 T-Spikes, which I think is less good because they get less chip from 1 turn, and my team is kind of in and out. A lot of these guys like Bolt, guys like Rillaboom, guys like Gren, potentially, and then guys like Heatran, don't even worry about it. So that's fine with me. We get Thunder Wave this last turn. I am just going to knock off this thing's item, as we see it is a Mental Herb, so good prep by them too, to not have to worry about like a Taunt Lead Mew. Really, really good bring. And Discharge pops. I'm going to get in my Raging Bolt. I know this thing isn't going to really threaten me at this point. And I'm going to Terra Dragon in conjunction with 3 spikes up. This Tinglu is going to take a ridiculous amount of damage. Can I, like, hold on. We're going to do one thing. I want to see if I can, like, actually see the spikes. Because when I watched the game a second ago, we could. Okay, yeah. I feel like it's better visually for you guys to see the spikes when it's switching in. It just looks a little bit better. So Tinglu's going to come in. And obviously this thing checks us really well. But again, Terra Dragon, Draco Meteor, a shit ton of damage. I see a lot of people using like defensive Terrazon Bolt, which I don't think is bad at all, but when I use this thing, I love clicking Draco Meteor, man. Nothing switches into Electric Dragon. Nothing. Unless you're playing into Treads, even Drill is going to get blown up by an Terra Dragon. Even guys like Treads can just get overwhelmed, right? So right here, spikes do go up. A lot of my team is pretty hazard immune. At least my 2 main guys are hazard immune, so I'm okay with this. I wouldn't have Mew to kind of sack it off, slash maybe beta weakness policy to myself. I am going to get, what do you call it, paralyzed right here. I would have been able to 2-hit kill this guy with close combat, but it's not the end of the world. We do get 2-hit kill by Earthquake. We at least get 1 close combat off, which is big. Only do 35, but it's damage. Out comes Gren. Pincurchin is going to be the pivot after 25% from spikes and a Hydro Pump. This guy is super dead. We're going to pop our Battle Bomb, which is great. The only issue is Big Pincurchin put in crazy work. It got up 2 T-Spikes. It's also setting up the terrain for Big Boulder to come in and guarantee get that booster speed. And alongside its Terra Grass, it's just not going to get punished. It's also boots, so not having to run booster energy and getting the, the boost. I mean, Pincurchin, pretty demon. Pretty demon bring. We're going to get into our Bolt. We're very physically defensive on this set, so we can take 2 of any hit. We take 2 Terra Blasts easy, but if it goes for a close combat, which I'm kind of expecting, we take that on, and we just throw off a Draco Meteor, and we pick one. Goldango doesn't even switch in well at this point. Tinglu pivots out. We're going to Draco, and we're going to go to the left. Now, does it matter as long as we hit this next one? No. But another Draco miss. We picked this one off, so there's 2 Draco misses for us in this very short tournament so far. Mesprit comes out next. I'm going to pivot out into Heatran immediately. I don't want to take a random fairy move for no reason. Shadow Ball is going to pop into us, which is fine. I just off a very free Lava Plume, trying to bait and burn into something. Cyclozar comes out hard. It does not get burned, but again, I really don't want this thing to spin away my Hatchers at all. So I am going to use this as an opportunity to get on my Palossand. I know that my Palossand does not beat Boulder. It just doesn't beat it. So this is the only thing I really need to use this Pokemon for, especially with T-Spikes up. It's not like it's great. A Shift Gear pops, and I go, oh, God. That's a little scary. I should live any 1 hit, as I live this Aqua Tail pretty easily. We get Rocky Helmet, and we're going to go ahead and Scorching Sand. Now, the issue with them being Aqua Tail, which I get it, they're Aqua Tail over knockoff, so they could hit Heatran still. But because they are that, they are going to give me a defense boost, which is going to allow me to live this random, acrobatics, and I am going to go down to poison as they go down to, the chip damage. Now, again, hindsight, probably should just rock there. Even if they miss their Aqua Tail and I don't die, the turn afterwards, I can just go into one of my priority guys and put myself in a good spot, and getting up rocks is nice, right? Now, it's not very consequential, as you'll see. Goldango is going to come out as I get into my Raging Bolt. As up to in turn, I am going to get into my Heatran, as I take this thing on very well and like max spec def. 26 is obviously great. If it's Focus Blast here, it is a roll, so it just depends on if they are. I'm going to go ahead and Lava Plume and burn the Mesprit on the switch in, as it does come out hard into me. It's not going to show leftovers here. I am going to protect, and I make a bit of a blunder here, as it does go for a Calm Mind. That's not good at all, as I believe I do pivot out into my Greninja here. We see a Shadow Ball pop. It's going to do a decent amount to us, not that much. And from here, I just have to Dark Pulse, hope I do enough damage to where I can revenge this thing with a Rillaboom. Afterwards, we get the Dark Pulse off, and we get the flinch. I mean, it wouldn't be a real game otherwise. One of the games in this tournament otherwise if I didn't get lucky in some way. Now, do I think I auto-lost? No. I also don't know how much Journey Kiss was recovering and getting back. It really does depend, because after this, I do sack this off. I kind of have to look at their sets and look at the calcs. I'll be honest, I didn't afterwards. We had no bulk, but it's also Draining Kiss that they clicked, they told me. And even if it wasn't, if it was Dazzling Gleam, that's kind of what it's going for, and I was going to sack this off anyways. We do die to this Terra Blast immediately, which is unfortunate. I'm going to go out into my Rillaboom here, because I know I can take any hit, get a Citrus back, U-turn out, put myself in an okay spot offensively by getting into my Terra Bolt. So we are going to go ahead and drop that U-turn. Goldango comes out. Again, completely fine with me. This means it's Heatran time. I take a spike, but I'm also going to go ahead and get leftovers and terrain back, so I do live any hit from this Goldango. And I also see that I'm faster than it. And I'm going to knock it out with a Lava Plume, which is great, putting me in a pretty okay position. Boulder's going to come out, and again, the boot's really coming up clutch. I am going to go ahead and Lava Plume, Beta Burn. They play for their out, which is getting a Swords Dance off. They do get it off and don't get burned, which is big for them. Really scary. Close combat pops. We were Flash Fire in this, or no, we were Flame Body in this game, so... Actually, no, was I Flat? No, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I was Flame Body. I should be Flame Body in the game. But this upcoming turn, I am going to go into my Raging Bolt. My out is getting off a Thunderclap into a Grassy Glide. I need to get off one Thunderclap, I need to reset terrain, Grassy Glide, it will kill him, but I have to get that off. We are going to see a Swords Dance. They got to get a lot of plays right, and thankfully the terrain ends here, so they're not getting any more recovery. I do a lot of damage with this move. Mighty Cleave picks me off, but thankfully from 17%, when this thing is at -1, we do pick it off from here with that Grassy Glide, and we're going to snag a 1-0 victory. Shouts to God Grand getting the flinch. My opponent was pretty upset after, but we talked for a while after. Obviously, like, I got lucky with the flinch. It's 30%. And again, it really just kind of depends on the calcs. They're really cool, though. You hashed it out. And again, I get it. I'd be pissed, too. You know, I'd be super hot. I'm sure you guys all know that if you watched this channel before. So, big shouts to them. And, yeah, that being said, let's jump into the next one. Alrighty, round 8 versus, I don't know how to say their name, so I'm going to say XOCOV. Pretty scary team. Yet another Terrazarud, which I really don't like that guy. Iron Valiant, Hydrapple, Gliscor, Blastoise, and Goldango. Another mon I don't like. As you saw last round, Goldango is pretty scary on paper into our team. Now, we have a pretty fun squad here for our round number 8 matchup, so let's go ahead and look at it. First up, we have Choice, I almost said Terra Rillaboom. Choice Band Rillaboom. Really strong mon in this matchup, to be completely honest. Depending on what the Zarud Terra's into, Grassy Glide could be great into it. Otherwise, Woodhammer and Grassy Glide is actually really strong here. The only resist on the team other than Zarud, which also dies to U-turn, so can't switch in before it Terras, is Goldango, which, if it's offensive, gets blown up by Woodhammers, and if it is bulky, knockoffs do a ton of damage still, and will be faster if it's bulky, so that's obviously nice. Heavy Duty Boots Gren. We are Dark Pulse, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, and Water Shuriken. Again, if we can just chip down Blastoise and really Hydrapple, this thing wins when it gets its Battle Bond proc, so kind of playing towards an end game with that guy. We also have an Assault Vest, Raging Bolt with Terra Dragon. We are Draco Meteor, Volt Switch, Discharge, and Thunderclap. Assault Vest is going to be nice in checking guys like Goldango and checking guys like Blastoise if it's Smash Choice. I think that's also his second Terra Captain. And it's just an overall pretty darn strong mon. I kind of struggled with the item on this guy for a little bit, but ended up moving away from Boots and going towards AV this week. We have our lead Mew, which is going to be a Lumberry variant, Psychic Fangs, Dragon Dance, Knockoff, and Triple Axle. We are Lumberry. This is really just to kind of punch through this team as hard as humanly possible. As long as it's not Zarud lead, this kind of puts him in a blender. Maybe Blastoise lead would be annoying too, but we are Lumberry in case the Gliscor leads and wants to click Toxic. We are Dragon Dance with Triple Axle in case it wants to click Protect and proc its item right away. We also super punish passive turns of it trying to set up any hazards. We're faster than it, so it can't taunt us. Hopefully this thing leads and does a lot of damage. Heavy Duty Boots Palisand, once again here to check the Iron Valiant. Just stabs Rock Shore up, just like every game. And then we are AV Mienshao in this game. AV Mienshao is going to function as a main pivot into guys like Goldango. You can take hits decently well enough, knock off items, be a big nuisance, and kind of pivot around with U-turn, which is nice. I just really didn't like Heatran in this game with guys like Gliscor, Blastoise in the game, so I ended up going with a little bit more of a subpar Mienshao, or check in Mienshao, but hey, it gets the job done. That being said, let's jump into it. You see, we do lead off with our Mew. We also see that they are Terra Fire on their Zarude, and Terra Water on their Blastoise, so they could either be going for crazy damage or just don't plan on terraing it. I'm pretty sure they're a Terra Blastoise. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. But regardless, we see League Gliscor, we see a passive Protect, and this is exactly what we were hoping for. We're just going to Dragon Dance up, get it to +1, and what switches into Axel plus Knockoff? / Psychic Wings. Nothing. So we're just going to triple Axel again, and pick this thing off. Maybe a second DD would have been worth it, but I really didn't think I needed to. Goldango's going to come out next. We knock off its Choice Scarf, which is great. And after that, Shadow Ball does go off. It's going to bring us down to 4%, but we do live, and we pick this thing off as well. So 2 KOs immediately. We force out Iron Valiant next, which does show to be booster speed. It is going to pick us off with a knockoff. So again, hindsight, maybe that second Dragon Dance was worth it, but I wanted to get off as much damage as possible, especially if that was like a Colbur Goldango, which it definitely could be into like the grand matchup and the knockoffs we have. So we are going to lose our Mew here, but again, we popped Booster and we killed 2 Mons. We are in an incredible spot right now. We also killed the only Dragon Resist. Now it's just Iron Valiant having to switch in to Raging Bolt. And you'll see here, as a Swords Dance pops, I immediately Scorching Sands and I get a burn, which is, again, incredible for me. Really, I just need to get damage off on this thing because my Gren and my Rillaboom revenge it with priority, especially probably my Rillaboom, because in case it's random Vacuum Wave, that's not good, but if it's SD, it's not Vacuum Wave, so we're fine. It's going to knock off here, not do any damage as I just get up my rocks in its face. I know I can take on 2 hits from this thing very easily because it's physically offensive. I'm going to shore up this turn, get a little bit of health back, and I believe just pick it off with a Shadow Ball this upcoming turn, as I'm not super concerned about keeping this guy mad healthy, I realize, because I don't really beat anything. So Rudy's going to come out next. Again, we can go into our Bolt, which is pretty darn bulky. You can take any 2 hits from this thing pretty, or not any 2 hits from this thing. Really depends on what it goes for. If it goes for knockoff, we can take 2 because we'll lose our item. And from here, after rocks, our Terra Dragon Draco Okos this thing, and if it's really bulky, we pick it off with Banded Glide or Water Shuriken as well. Like, it'll take way too much damage. We Terra Dragon. He Swords Dances, kind of playing off of a miss or a choke. And Draco goes to the left. I'll be honest with you guys, this one was the worst one. I remember I played this at work, and I was pissed at work. Man, I was handing people towels with anger as they picked me off with a knockoff here, and we just lose. We were in an incredible spot. I actually don't see a scenario in which we ever lose this game from this position. Literally ever. So pretty frustrating. I mean, Zarude is bulky as hell, so even if we force the Terra, we're not killing it with Shuriken. And that's going to be wraps. It looks like it's some Bullet Seed shit, so it's probably like some loaded dice, which is pretty cool. And it's not like my opponent did anything wrong. I got unlucky as hell, and we lost. And that's life. That is it. So that's the end of a run. The end of the most cursed tournament run ever. 3 Draco misses from stupid Bolt, and 2 of them lost us games. So maybe I don't love Raging Bolts as much as I thought. Thank God I didn't get it in Summer Scramble. Spoilers. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Let me know what you guys thought of the tournament in the comments below. Figured I'd still upload the video because we got like 8 battles out of it, or 7 battles and a forfeit. So I figured I'd at least upload it and show you guys the games, and let you guys at least see me lose my mind throughout the course of this tournament, either me getting extremely lucky or me getting extremely unlucky, like this one in the first and last game, both ending on a Draco miss. Very poetic. So again, drop a like if you enjoyed, sub if you're new. I'll see you guys next time. Later.